Listen carefully. There are four forces that shape the arc of a man's life: his words, his thoughts, his emotions, and his resources: mouth, mind, mood, and money. They can either become the weapons that carve out freedom or the traps that bury a man long before the world ever tries. Most people never realize that their downfall isn't caused by enemies, economy, or chance. It's self-inflicted. It's their tongue, their distractions, their moods, their spending. These are the chains that keep them bowed. John was a man like many others. He wasn't born rich. He wasn't born strong. But he was born with choices, and choices, when made deliberately, shape destiny. But John hadn't made those choices yet. He talked too much, thought too little, spent recklessly, and let his feelings rule him. He wasn't evil, just undisciplined, and that's all it takes to fall. Let's begin with the first battlefield, the mouth. Words aren't just noise, they're power. Words build alliances or destroy them. They can open doors or slam them shut. Most men leak words like a broken pipe, boasting, complaining, revealing too much to people who earn too little of their trust. John learned this the hard way when a casual comment at a bar cost him a job offer he never knew was on the table. In the words of ancient thinkers like Epictetus and modern psychologists like Daniel Goleman, self-awareness is the gatekeeper of power. Control begins with silence. The man who speaks little is mistaken for deep. The man who explains himself constantly is seen as weak. John started practicing restraint, not out of fear, but out of focus. He realized that when he said less, people listened more. And when he listened more, he understood things others missed. But that was just the beginning. Because controlling your mouth isn't about silence alone. It's about intention. John learned to speak when it counted, with weight, with clarity, with consequence. He stopped debating with fools, confessing his weaknesses to strangers, or broadcasting his ambitions. He understood what every strong leader before him had known. Mystery is leverage. The question for you is this: have your words become your enemy? Do you speak to feel important, or do you speak to create impact? Do you use your voice to build, or do you waste it proving something no one asked you to prove? Power starts not with shouting, but with control. Not with noise, but with stillness. So the first lesson is this: seal your lips unless the words you speak serve a purpose. Your voice should be like a blade, drawn only when needed, and never twice for the same battle. Comment below with the phrase, "My silence is my sword." Let it be your initiation into a life where every word matters and every silence is filled with strength. If the mouth is the sword, then the mind is the general. And what good is a weapon if the hand that guides it trembles? This is the second battlefield, the mind. Most men lose here long before the fight even begins. They are prisoners in a cell of their own thoughts, overthinking the past, fantasizing the future, and rarely commanding the present. John was no stranger to this chaos. His mind jumped from regret to regret, from fear to fantasy. He would replay conversations from years ago. Imagine disasters that never came, and lose entire mornings inside his own noise. He thought this was normal. But normal isn't powerful. Normal is average, and average is easily replaced. A man must discipline his thoughts the way a general disciplines his troops, with focus, with purpose, with order. You don't allow every idea to settle in your mind. You choose them, you test them. You ask, does this thought make me stronger or weaker? Does it serve the mission or sabotage it? If it weakens, you strike it down. If it strengthens, you let it grow. Neuroscience now confirms what ancient Stoics like Marcus Aurelius once taught. Your attention is your most limited resource. The brain consumes massive energy with every decision, every worry, every distraction. You cannot afford to spend it on nonsense. John began to train his mind daily, reading strategy, studying psychology, cutting off the endless scroll of digital noise that fed his doubt. You don't need to control every thought. That's impossible. But you must control which ones you feed. Starve fear, starve envy, starve self-pity. Feed discipline, feed clarity, feed understanding. The mind is not a playground. It's a war room. Fill it with tools, not toys. This isn't about becoming robotic. It's about becoming ruthless in choosing where your energy goes. The man who controls his focus controls his future. Thoughts are like winds. You cannot stop them, but you can set your sails. Guide your mind, or it will guide you, and often straight off a cliff. John began to change when he stopped believing every voice in his head. He questioned them, challenged them, redirected them, and the moment he did, his decisions changed, his discipline grew, his confidence sharpened. That's the power of a trained mind. If this resonates with you, leave this in the comments below. My mind obeys me, because it must. The world is full of noise. Let others drown in it. You, stay focused, stay sharp, stay sovereign. Your mind, like your words, must become a weapon, not for destruction, but for direction. The third battlefield is often the most underestimated: mood. Where the mind gives command and the mouth delivers it, your emotions determine whether you obey or collapse. Most men believe they are their emotions. When they're angry, they shout. When they're sad, they quit. When they're proud, they overreach. And this is why most men are ruled, not ruling. John didn't think of himself as emotional. He thought he was just being real. But being real isn't always being right. One moment of anger cost him his best friendship. One day of sadness kept him in bed when opportunity knocked. One surge of pride made him reckless. The world didn't need to beat him. His moods did all the work. Emotions aren't weakness, but uncontrolled emotions, that's a leash. And the man who wears it is easy to lead, easy to provoke, easy to predict, easy to defeat. The unshakable man learns to observe his emotions like weather. It may rain, but that doesn't mean you stop marching. It may storm, but the mission continues. Psychologist Paul Ekman showed us that while emotions are universal, how we respond is not. Emotional intelligence is not about feeling less, it's about managing more. The untouchable man does not explode when he's provoked. He calculates. He does not wither in sorrow. He processes. He does not get drunk on joy. He remains steady. Because power does not exist in the spike. It exists in the line. This is not about becoming numb. It's about learning that your emotions are tools, not rulers. Anger, used sparingly, can command fear. Sadness, when understood, builds compassion. But when these feelings take the wheel, they drive you off the road. Master actors, elite negotiators, and battlefield leaders all share this trait: emotional control. They wear masks not to lie, but to protect. John began training this in everyday moments: traffic, arguments, bad news. He practiced stillness when his blood boiled. He kept quiet when pride urged him to lash out. He smiled when others would complain. And slowly, his presence changed. People respected him more, listened more, feared him even, not because he was cruel, but because he was unreadable. And that's the lesson. Let your mood become your servant, not your master. Decide when to display emotion and when to conceal it. Own your face, own your energy, own your state. The man who does this walks into any room with calm certainty, and certainty is power. If you're ready to control what most men never even notice, leave this phrase in the comments: I master my moods. Because in a world of reaction, the man who remains composed becomes king. Let the herd rage and whimper. You walk steady, like iron in a world of clay. The fourth battlefield is where most men lose the war without ever realizing it: money. Not because they don't have it, but because they don't control it. In a world where consumerism whispers promises of pleasure and validation, most men trade their future for fleeting comfort. Understanding finances, when approached with care, can be a tool for empowerment. John had a good income, but his financial habits weren't aligned with his long-term goals. Every dollar spent without a plan was a missed opportunity for growth, options, and security. He once thought financial success was for a select few, but he learned that it often comes from careful preparation. It's possible for individuals with substantial earnings to still feel financially stretched. This is because consistent, thoughtful habits, more so than income level, build lasting well-being. Some people spend for immediate gratification, while others invest to build future independence. This isn't just about accumulation, it's about creating personal autonomy. A person who has built a strong financial foundation has the freedom to move on from a job that no longer serves them, or to navigate challenging situations with confidence because they have created options for their future. Economists and behavioral scientists agree financial stress is among the leading causes of anxiety, divorce, and depression. But financial mastery isn't taught, it's chosen. John began to see every dollar as a soldier. Some he trained to protect his future, some he sent to multiply in investments. But never again did he send them to die in meaningless battles like impulse purchases or social signaling. Understand this: money must serve your purpose, not your pride. Do not chase appearances. Let the world see simplicity while you build silently. A man with resources can wait. He can choose. He can say no. And in a world that pressures you to say yes to everything, that's real power. This isn't just about budgeting, it's about identity. The man who controls his money is often the man who controls his time, his energy, and his decisions. He is less reactive, less desperate, and more dangerous because he cannot be bought, hurried, or bent. John stopped flaunting, stopped chasing, stopped spending to fill a void. He used his money to buy time to read, to train, to prepare. And with each passing month, the stress faded and the power grew. People noticed, but never understood. That's how it should be. If this strikes a nerve, stamp it in the comments. My money is my army. Because it should be. Let others waste theirs to impress strangers. You will build your fortress, brick by dollar, until no storm can shake you. Control money, or be controlled by it. There is no middle ground. 4 battlefields: mouth, mind, mood, and money. Master them, and a man begins to build an inner fortress, silent, strong, and unshakable. But even the strongest fortress must be guarded by appearances. And that brings us to the 5th element, the mask. Not deception, not lies, strategy. John had always prided himself on being an open book, honest, transparent, emotionally available. He wore his heart on his sleeve and suffered for it. He wondered why people manipulated him, underestimated him, or used his vulnerabilities against him. Until he understood a painful truth: people judge by what they see, not who you are. Niccolo Machiavelli once wrote that a ruler does not need to be virtuous, only appear virtuous. Why? Because people don't follow the truth, they follow the illusion that serves their comfort. The mask isn't about betraying yourself, it's about protecting yourself. It's armor, not artifice. John began crafting his mask like a sculptor. In meetings, he projected calm competence, even when unsure. In conflict, he showed poise, not panic. In moments of triumph, he appeared humble, not because he lacked confidence, but because he understood power is diluted when flaunted. Mystery became his ally. Psychologists have long studied the impact of impression management. The way you present yourself directly alters how others treat you. Appear confident, and people defer. Appear uncertain, and they press. Appear kind but not weak, firm but not cruel, and you earn a presence that influences every room you walk into. This doesn't mean living a lie. The mask is not fake, it is curated. You choose what part of yourself to reveal based on purpose. The real you remains guarded, not exposed to those who haven't earned it. That's not manipulation, that's wisdom. John's relationships changed. Fewer people tried to walk over him. More people leaned in to hear what he had to say. Why? Because the man who is unreadable is always respected, and sometimes feared. Ask yourself, are you showing the world your power or bleeding it through unnecessary vulnerability? Not everyone deserves access to your truth. Guard it. Shape your image with intention. The world responds to symbols more than substance. If this insight cuts deep, write it in the comments below. My mask is my weapon. Remember, in a world that devours the exposed, the armored man walks untouched. You can be kind without being soft. You can be open without being vulnerable. And above all, you can be real without being raw. Now we enter darker waters, the psychology of power. The cold terrain where sentiment dies and clarity reigns. If the mask protects you, then cold psychology guides you. It's not cruelty, it's understanding. And understanding people at their core is the most dangerous knowledge a man can possess. John was once naive. He believed people were driven by values, by fairness, by reason. But the world kept showing him otherwise. People lied, betrayed, vanished when convenient. Friends turned distant. Colleagues took credit. Lovers shifted loyalty. At first, he blamed himself. Then he saw the truth. People are not loyal to you. They are loyal to their needs. Cold psychology teaches you this. Not to hate people, but to see them. Strip away their words, their performance, and what remains. Desire, fear, status, security, lust, self-interest. That's what drives them. And when you learn to see it, you stop being surprised. You stop being hurt. You stop being manipulated. Machiavelli said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." Why? Because fear is consistent, love is conditional, and in leadership, business, and life, the man who commands respect through presence, competence, and boundaries goes further than the man who craves approval. John began studying human behavior. He stopped judging actions at face value. When someone apologized, he asked, "What do they gain?" When someone offered help, he asked, "What are they trying to secure?" This didn't make him bitter. It made him prepared. He still appreciated kindness, but never blindly. Cold psychology is not pessimism. It is precision. It's seeing patterns where others see chaos. It's understanding that most conflicts, betrayals, and power shifts follow predictable paths. The man who studies people becomes a strategist. The man who reacts emotionally becomes a casualty. So how do you apply this? First, observe. In silence, people reveal everything. Their needs, their fears, their levers. Second, detach. When insulted, criticized, or tested, do not react. Watch, calculate. Third, create leverage. Give people what they want, only when it serves your vision. The man who sees the game can never again pretend it doesn't exist. And once you see it, you stop being played. You start to play. If you're ready to step into this level of awareness, seal it in the comments below. I see through the game. Let it remind you that power isn't about force. It's about understanding. The world isn't cruel, it's competitive. And those who refuse to study the rules remain pawns. You will learn, you will adapt, and soon you will control the board. Every empire needs a sanctuary, a place away from noise, away from chaos, away from distraction. This is where the next lesson is forged, the discipline of isolation, not loneliness, not exile, but deliberate solitude, chosen for clarity, for strength, for strategy. John had always been surrounded by noise, the TV on, the phone buzzing, coworkers talking, social media scrolling. He mistook constant connection for productivity, but all it did was blur his focus. He couldn't think beyond the hour, couldn't plan beyond the day, and life, real life, demands more than that. Every powerful figure in history understood this. Kings had chambers, generals had tents, philosophers had caves. Why? Because power requires time alone. Solitude isn't where the weak break, it's where the strong build. The man who fears being alone is often afraid of what he might hear in the silence, but the man who embraces it finds something else, himself. Psychologists call it default mode thinking. When your brain is not reacting, not consuming, not performing, it begins to process deeply. It connects dots, revisits decisions, builds long-term vision. Strategy is born in stillness, not speed. John began to schedule isolation. He called it fortress time. No calls, no chatter, no screens, just paper, pen, thoughts. And over time, what was once uncomfortable became addictive. Productive silence became his edge. But solitude without direction is just escape. That's why isolation must be paired with strategy. Strategy asks, what am I building? What threats exist? Where will I be in 1 year? 5, 10? What are the alliances worth keeping and which must be severed? What habits are sharpening me and which are softening me? John mapped his life like a battlefield. Time, money, influence, relationships, each a piece. He stopped moving randomly. Every hour had a reason. Every investment had a return. He didn't hustle harder. He moved smarter. That's the essence of strategy, clarity over chaos. So here's your command. Step back, not permanently, but regularly. Carve out time that no one can claim. Use it not to escape life, but to design it. In that space, think sharper, plan deeper, grow stronger. And when you return to the world, do so as a general, not a soldier. If you're ready to commit to this practice, declare it below. My isolation builds my empire, because it will. Let others fear silence. You will use it. Let others chase distraction. You will train in focus. And over time, as the herd drowns in noise, you'll move quietly, deliberately, always 3 steps ahead, 8 battlefields behind you. But none of them matter unless they lead here, to transformation. Not of circumstance, of self. The untouchable man is not born. He is built, forged in silence, sharpened by discipline, molded by control. This is the moment where scattered lessons become an identity. John no longer recognized the man he used to be. He spoke less but with more power. He thought less but with more clarity. He felt deeply but chose his reactions. He no longer feared solitude. He used it. His money served him. His mask protected him. His mind obeyed him. And his life began to move, quietly, steadily, upward. This transformation wasn't loud. It didn't post itself online. It didn't seek approval. It showed itself in posture, in presence, in the calm that unnerves lesser men, in the patience that waits while others panic. This is the mark of the untouchable man, not that he cannot be harmed, but that he cannot be shaken. Psychologists call this locus of control. When a man believes he controls his fate, not luck, not politics, not others, he walks differently. He decides deliberately. He sees temptation and walks past it. He sees chaos and moves through it. He doesn't need applause because he has alignment, inner coherence. Every part of him serves the same mission. But don't confuse this with perfection. The untouchable man still feels fear, still makes mistakes, still gets tested. But his response is different. He doesn't crumble, he recalibrates. He doesn't react, he strategizes. Every setback becomes a lesson. Every enemy becomes a mirror. Every failure becomes a forge. John's world didn't become easier, it became clearer. The same challenges came: money pressure, betrayal, temptation. But now he faced them like a man with armor. Not just emotional strength, structural strength, his routines, his habits, his focus, his reserves, all built to outlast storms. Ask yourself, are you being shaped by the world, or are you shaping yourself against it? Do you drift with impulse or design with purpose? Every man has the same tools: mouth, mind, mood, money, mask, psychology, isolation, strategy, but only a few stack them into a fortress. If you've followed this path, if the transformation has begun in you, mark it below. I am becoming untouchable. Say it not with arrogance, but with conviction. Because this journey is not about superiority. It's about sovereignty. It's about rising above distraction, dependence, and doubt, and stepping into control, presence, and power. Not for the crowd, not for the applause, but for the man in the mirror. That's who you answer to, and soon, that's who others will answer to as well. The world doesn't wait for the prepared. It tests the unready, and that's why transformation must lead to action, the call to power. This is not the roar of arrogance. It is the quiet surge of a man who has earned his place, a man who no longer flinches at pressure, who no longer waits for permission. He moves with purpose, with certainty, with calm fire. John stood at a crossroads, not externally, but internally. All the discipline, all the silence, all the strategy, it had brought him to a moment where something had to change. No more hiding, no more delay. He realized power is not an accident, it's a decision. It's saying, I will not be ruled, I will rule, first myself, then padeva my world. Most men avoid this moment. They live soft lives, pretending comfort is happiness, but comfort is the slow poison of potential. They run from resistance, call weakness humility, and call fear caution. But deep down, they know. They feel the hollow, the aching sense that they were meant for more, but traded it for ease. The call to power is not loud. It is personal. It comes in moments of stillness. When you see the gap between who you are and who you could become. When you realize no one is coming to save you. No one is going to hand you clarity, or discipline, or freedom. You must build it, brick by brick, rule by rule, choice by choice. This does not mean becoming a tyrant. Real power is quiet. It listens more than it speaks. It acts without seeking credit. It doesn't need to boast. It simply is. It radiates from how you carry yourself, how you choose when others react, how you remain calm when others crumble, how you speak last, but everyone listens. John answered the call, not by shouting, but by showing. His actions shifted. He began to protect his time like treasure. He said no with firmness, not apology. He eliminated distractions, refined his circle, and built with ruthless clarity. No more drifting, no more chasing, just direction. And the world responded. Not immediately, but eventually. People noticed the difference, not just in his success, but in his gravity, the way he walked into a room, the way he made decisions, the way he no longer asked for approval, but gave it only when earned. This is your moment. Not tomorrow, not when it's convenient. Now, ask yourself, will you remain shaped by the world, or will you shape yourself into something unshakable? If you're ready, declare it in the comments. I answer the call to power. Let it be more than words. Let it be your turning point, because from this point forward, nothing happens to you. Everything happens through you. You are no longer drifting. You are building. Power is not a fantasy. Power is a discipline. And now, you begin. The untouchable man lives by a principle most overlook. Control is not about dominance. It's about discipline, not just over others, but over self. And self-control, when layered deeply, creates something rare, something magnetic, something immovable. That's what true presence is, quiet authority. John didn't become powerful by accident. He chose it, but more importantly, he re-chose it every single day. In what he said, in what he refused to say, in what he did with his mornings, in what he ignored when others obsessed, in what he spent, in what he saved, in what he forgave, and what he did not tolerate. Control is not force, it's structure. A man who controls himself can enter any situation and remain calm, measured, deliberate. His energy is not scattered, his emotions are not on display, his words are not wasted. He does not rush because he is already prepared. He does not react because he already understands. We live in an age of noise. Everyone is broadcasting, everyone is chasing attention, but attention is not power. It is currency for the desperate. The untouchable man trades in silence, influence, and timing. He understands that power is not about being seen, it's about being respected when you are. This is the paradox of power. The more you control, the less you need to prove. John became the man people looked to for answers, not because he had all the answers, but because he carried the weight of someone who had earned his stillness. He didn't need to dominate conversations. He asked the right questions. He didn't need to react. He responded with intent. This level of control is built, not gifted. It's built in early mornings when you rise with no applause. It's built when you skip pleasure to build systems, when you stay silent in arguments that are beneath you, when you invest in what no one else sees. Every act of restraint becomes a brick in your fortress. John's transformation wasn't explosive, it was methodical, and that's what made it permanent. He wasn't chasing moments, he was building foundations. And in that foundation, there was no panic, no desperation, no chaos, just quiet power. Quiet. This is what you must understand. The world will always try to pull your attention, steal your time, provoke your emotions, and spend your energy. But only you decide what gets your attention. Only you decide what is worthy of your response. So ask yourself, do you own your actions? Or are you driven by impulse? Are you building control or merely managing chaos? If this lesson speaks to you, write it in the comments. Control is power. Say it, mean it, live it. Because a man who cannot control himself will always be controlled by someone who can. A man becomes untouchable not when he feels invincible, but when he no longer fears being vulnerable. That's the paradox. Power isn't about being above pain. It's about being unmoved by it. Not because you feel nothing, but because you choose what to show and when. John used to react. He wore his emotions on his face, his worries in his posture, his pride in his tone. Every mood was a message, one that others could read, exploit, and respond to. It wasn't power, it was exposure, and exposure invites attack. But then he learned the art of concealment, not of truth, but of strategy. He realized that transparency is not always noble. It's often naive. You do not show your whole hand in a game. You do not reveal weakness in battle. You do not confess uncertainty to those who gain from your confusion. Every powerful man in history wore masks, not to deceive, but to direct perception. They appeared calm in chaos. They smiled at enemies. They remained unreadable because what people can't read, they can't predict. And what they can't predict, they fear, or at least respect. This is not about becoming robotic. John still felt everything. He still wrestled with doubt, fatigue, even fear. But he learned to carry those things with posture, to feel fire inside but never let it scorch his face, to sit in rooms where others panicked and look like the only one who saw clearly. This level of control changes how others treat you. People don't argue with you as much. They don't test your boundaries. They don't assume they understand you. You become the variable in every room, the presence that shifts dynamics simply by being still. It's not about being distant, it's about being composed. It's not about hiding forever. It's about choosing your moments. You don't need to be emotionless. You need to be emotionally sovereign. That's the difference between power and performance. So ask yourself, can others read you? Can they provoke you? Can they predict what you'll say or how you'll respond? If the answer is yes, you are giving away power, one emotion at a time. Write this in the comments if you understand, my presence is my power. Let it remind you that real strength is not in the noise, but in the silence that cannot be shaken. Be the storm on the inside and the calm on the outside. Now we arrive at one of the most overlooked principles in the rise to power, patience. In a world addicted to speed, the man who waits becomes terrifying. While others chase every trend, every distraction, every instant gratification, the untouchable man builds silently, slowly, relentlessly. John used to rush. He wanted results overnight. If a business didn't scale in 60 days, he dropped it. If someone didn't text back within hours, he overthought. If he didn't feel instant growth, he assumed failure. And every time he sabotaged his own progress by quitting too soon. Then he discovered something powerful. Time is a weapon. Not just time spent, but time controlled. The man who can delay gratification, who can outlast temptation, who can stay silent while others self-destruct, wins by default. But fortune belongs not to the fastest, but to the most disciplined. Think of predators in nature. The lion doesn't chase every movement. He waits, still, focused, then strikes when the moment is right. That's not laziness, that's lethality. John adopted this. He stopped reacting. He started tracking. Instead of constant action, he practiced deliberate moves. No more chasing noise. Only execution with precision. It's what investor Naval Ravikant calls specific knowledge leveraged with time. The compounding effect. Whether it's wealth, wisdom, or strength, the results always lag behind the effort. But when they arrive multiplied. Most men never taste that because they never wait long enough. This kind of patience is rare. It's not passive, it's active endurance. It's knowing when to pause, when to hold, when to build in silence. It's trusting your system even when the world says, give up. John began seeing growth not in dopamine spikes, but in deeper things. Better decisions, cleaner boundaries, stronger habits, clearer focus. And from that foundation, the external results came, without the chaos. So what's the lesson? Stop trying to sprint your way to power. Stop switching paths every time discomfort hits. Choose your direction. Commit with depth. Build patiently. And when you strike, strike with power built over time. Write this in the comments if you understand the value of waiting with purpose. I move with patience and precision. Because when you stop rushing, you stop bleeding energy. And when you stop bleeding energy, you start building momentum. Quietly, unstoppably. That's the edge most men never see coming. Every move you make, every word you speak, every dollar you spend, every emotion you express, all of it shapes something bigger than you, your legacy. The untouchable man knows this. He doesn't live for the moment. He builds beyond it. While others chase attention, he builds foundations that outlast applause. John used to live reactively. He thought success meant impressing people now. Better clothes, faster cars, louder victories. But over time, he noticed something. Those who screamed loudest disappeared fastest. Temporary wins don't build permanent influence. Legacy does. Legacy is not fame. It's not popularity. It's not a name etched into buildings. It's the echo of your discipline, the systems you create, the values you protect. The impact you leave on others, not through sentiment, but through structure. A legacy is not what they say about you when you die. It's what stands firm when you're no longer speaking. John changed his metric for success. He stopped asking, what makes me look powerful now? And started asking, what will remain powerful when I'm gone? He built habits, teams, frameworks, not just for income, but for independence, not just for status, but for sovereignty. The quieter he moved, the stronger his legacy became. You see, when you master your mood, your money, your mask, your mind, when you stack those elements daily, you're not just surviving. You're shaping a force greater than the sum of your actions. And the deeper that force runs, the harder it is to dismantle. People can take your title, your position, even your wealth, but they can't erase what you've built into the world, into people, and into time. Ask yourself, will you be remembered as another man who chased validation? Or will you be remembered as the man who built systems, changed people, and lived by principle when others begged for comfort? That's legacy. That's the ripple you leave without needing to shout. So write this in the comments if you're building beyond the moment. I build a legacy, not just a life. Because in the end, noise fades, trends fade, but structure endures. The untouchable man doesn't just live for now, he engineers forever, quietly, strategically, without needing credit. That's how legends are born. We've walked through silence, discipline, focus, patience, and power. But one truth remains above all. Control is not the absence of chaos. It's the ability to remain unmoved inside it. The untouchable man is not made of stone. He is forged in fire, and that fire never stops burning. John, by now, had transformed. Not because his world had become perfect, but because he no longer needed it to be. He had become his own stability. When storms came, he adjusted his sails. When betrayal struck, he didn't collapse. He recalculated. When fortune faded, he adapted, waited, and rebuilt. Calm, cold, calculated. This, is the final test. Can you remain you when everything around you demands you lose yourself? When others panic, can you stay centered? When you're tested, can you respond without breaking character? When the world mocks your discipline, can you stay the course without craving validation? Because make no mistake, the world will push back. When you rise in power, comfort will tempt you. When you act with clarity, noise will try to confuse you. When you walk alone, crowds will call you arrogant. When you succeed quietly, the loud will accuse you of being lucky. Let them. That's their game, not yours. The untouchable man is not loud. He is not popular. He is not addicted to the spotlight. He is present, quiet, deadly with purpose. He doesn't need to be understood. He needs to be effective. And when others gossip, guess, or envy, he continues, head down, eyes forward, movements precise. And perhaps the most remarkable thing about John wasn't what he gained, but what he no longer needed: approval, applause, permission. He became sovereign. Every win came from within. Every loss became fuel. And as others rose and fell like waves, he stood like the shoreline, untouched, unshaken. So the question becomes, can you live without needing to be seen? Can you build without needing credit? Can you lead without needing to be followed? Because if you can, you are close, very close, to becoming untouchable. Write it in the comments now if you understand the gravity of this final transformation. I remain unmoved in chaos. That is your mark, your edge. And from here, there's only one more step to take, the one that echoes beyond you. The final step. The seal of everything you've built. This is the final step. The seal. The end of excuses. The beginning of rule. Not over others, but over yourself, fully, finally, forever. The untouchable man is not perfect. He is principled. He is not feared because he is brutal. He is feared because he cannot be moved, manipulated, or broken. John no longer reacted to the world. He shaped it. He didn't control every outcome, but he controlled how he responded. His discipline was daily. His silence was strategic. His focus was weaponized. He wasn't waiting for luck. He was building inevitability. And that's the final transformation. Becoming the kind of man who no longer waits to be chosen, because he's already chosen himself. You will lose people on this path. Friends who resent your standards, family who mock your ambition, coworkers who envy your discipline. Let them fall away. Power demands sacrifice, not blood, but comfort, not connection, but dependency. You cannot be everything to everyone and still remain sovereign. You must choose. And when you choose power, real power, not noise, you will walk differently, speak differently, move with grace under pressure, command attention without asking for it. Your energy will shift, and others will feel it, even if they can't name it. That's what untouchable is. It's not about being above pain. It's about being beneath no man. You will be tested. The world will poke at your calm, tempt your pride, attack your values. Stay still, stay deliberate. You do not rise to every bait. You do not explain every move. You do not break character to prove a point. You remain the same, calm, composed, and cold when needed. So here it is. The final command: rule yourself first. Wake up with clarity, speak with precision, spend with purpose, choose your emotions, study people, build in silence, strike when ready, walk away without fear, and never kneel, not to chaos, not to noise, not to the temporary whims of weak men. If this journey has shifted you, declare it now in the comments: I am untouchable. Write it not for others, but for you. Let it be a promise, a line in the sand. Power is not a dream, it's a decision. And now you've made it. Before you go, make this movement stronger, like this video. Subscribe to the channel and drop your story, your thoughts, your vision in the comments below. This isn't just content, it's training, and you are part of it. Discipline yourself, harden yourself, mask yourself, strategize, rule yourself, and soon you will rule much more. The call to power has been made. The only question left is, will you answer it?